For the meeting to order, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Just an FYI for the people in the audience tonight, one of our commissioners, Andrew Hulls, is on remotely from Florida, and our other commissioner, Brad Schumacher, is in Chile, I believe still. So you get to put up with the three of us for the main thing here. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Bruce and let him roll with it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Yeah, Commissioner Schumacher's might be in Chile. We're just Chile. So,
Yeah.
So the purpose of Truth in Taxation is to enhance public information, encourage public participation, and improve government accountability in the property tax system. It's designed to provide taxpayers with a clear opportunity to understand the link between local government budgets, i.e. spending, and your individual property tax bill. So tonight we have the opportunity, and staff's going to just do a brief presentation to put in context what's going on. And then the purpose of the hearing is to allow folks to speak to the county board directly regarding their property taxes, the county budgets, and other things related that might be on your mind. By state statute, the final budget for 2026 has to be approved by the end of December. What you have on your property tax bill is based upon what we call the preliminary budget and levy. By state law, that levy cannot go up after it is set in September. It can go down at the discretion of the board. And so a lot of times the discussions in October, November, and December is what can we cut to further reduce the budget. And that is still an open discussion for the board before it approves the budget in a week and a half. With that, just a couple of things, and then staff is also here to answer any questions residents may have regarding your property values or your property tax bill. And so the county assessor is here and the county auditor treasurer, and they will be able to address after you speak to the board with any specific questions you may have about your individual properties or your individual tax statement. It's hard for us to do that with over 40,000 parcels in the county, but we do have staff here to look at the individual circumstances as well. The other thing that's very challenging for us is that in this particular case, we are the postal carrier. So the property tax statement you get says on it Sherburne County, but you'll notice that it is a consolidated property tax, and it will have lines in there for your city or your township, your school district. If you live in a lake improvement district, all kinds of other lines in there, including one from the state of Minnesota, on which this board has zero control. And that's very frustrating for them because a lot of times we all as property owners look at our total tax increase and are very frustrated, and yet the responsibility of the county board is literally limited to the line that says county property tax. So we would encourage folks to consider also speaking to the other taxing jurisdictions. Even though we collect the tax and distribute it to them, we have no authority or ability to change a school district tax, a city tax, the state tax, and the like. So that's not trying to pass the buck, it's just a reality of the system. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to apologize for that because like you, I look at my tax bill and look at the bottom line, and maybe then after the shock wears off and I take my blood pressure medication, do I start looking at the individual lines and saying, oh, that's right, the school is doing this, the city is doing this. And so as a result of that, we really are going to focus tonight on what the county can control and what's happening at the county level. With that, we'll go forward. Just a note on the mission. You'll notice that this county board and ones before it really focus on that idea of being cost effective. So we don't necessarily build gold-plated buildings or drive Cadillacs down the highway. We try to be very cost-conscious in the services that we support to the county. We'll also hear a word tonight that we hope you will start understanding, and that is the word mandate. It's a requirement that the federal or state government puts on us and often doesn't give us any resources to carry it out. As a result, the message behind that is raise taxes. So since we are at the bottom of the food chain of governments, the federal and state government can literally tell this board what to do and give them no resources to do it. And there's a little bit of frustration you'll see in our message tonight because that's exactly what's been happening, especially this year and going into next year. So things we'll cover, and I'll try to be very brief, are property value classifications, the budget process, the budget levy itself, expenditure and revenues, where your particular property tax dollar goes, the state tax refund program, and then opening up for public comment. Everything that I'm speaking about, the slide deck is behind if you'd like to review it. It'll be available online tomorrow, and we also have some copies of the top line of the entire county budget by department for you to review if you're interested in that. And the entire budget, I'll note, is also online. So a lot of times we get questions about market value. Market values are actually established by professional standards and state law. We have the assessor here to talk about the valuations, or you can follow up with them. Sir, I'm sorry, do you have a question?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay, sorry. Just want to make sure I didn't
No.
miss anything. Okay. So we would ask if you're looking at the valuation of your property that we spend some time with the assessor staff. The other thing that's interesting about Minnesota, and this catches a lot of us out here in Sherburne County, is that if the taxable value of your parcel is below $500,000, it has a 1% tax capacity rate. However, once you get above 500,000, it kicks it into a higher rate. So it's like a double kick. The value goes up and the rate goes up. And you can see more information there if you want to learn about Minnesota's property tax classification. What we do is every year we engage in a budgeting process based upon what are considered core services, most of which are mandated, required, and then the county's strategic plan. With that, in February, March, we start having preliminary budget discussions. That leads to June, where the departments put together a proposed budget for the next year. July and August, when the board sits down with every department and reviews the budgets. September, where they establish the preliminary budget and the levy, and then receiving input and feedback from the public and the community through tonight, holding the truth and taxation hearing, and then adopting the budget. So it is a year-long process. We didn't just start on this last week. It continues to evolve and grow throughout the year. In terms of the priorities, this is our strategic plan. It's to strengthen our healthy, safe, and livable community, try to promote economic growth, which helps with additional taxpayers like businesses and new homes, foster partnerships and keep the public informed, be fiscally responsible and trustworthy with the resources you give us, and foster the best organization we can within those resources. These are the pluses that help us a little bit in doing that. First of all, the tax base is growing in the county. New construction, you can see, is adding value to the community as well as the current home values, and they've been going up by a pretty good amount for the last 5 years. Residential values increased also about 2.5%, so that's the average increase of the homes and the businesses, or homes, and then the commercial, industrial, and multifamily businesses all see about 11% increase in value. So that allows us to have the same effective tax rate on new construction and new values. Some challenges, we are a growing county, so you can see our population has grown by over 10,000 residents in 12 years. We continue to be one of the fastest growing Minnesota counties. We are seeing significant inflation. Last year we were talking 2%. Next year we're talking over 3%, our projected inflation. And this year, we normally don't have this bullet, we are experiencing very significant cost shifts from the state of Minnesota. What that means is, for instance, over $865,000 are being shifted on our responsibility from the state. And this board this summer chose not to accept another $1.66 million in the same shifts. So we are either deferring those till next year, hoping the legislature might change, or we're absorbing them within the current staffing and budgets, or we may have to use one-time reserves to prepare for 2027. So when we sat down with the board with the bad news, you can see we're talking almost $2.5 million in shifts from the state, and we pared it down by trying to absorb or defer the worst of those. Other challenges to talk about even beyond 2026, we continue to see not only population growth, but demand for services. We are experiencing an impact from the decommissioning of Sherco. That's about 9% of our tax base, and so what happens is if that business no longer pays taxes, the taxes get redistributed on other businesses and other homes. So that's a very significant loss to our community. We are, like anybody else, having aging equipment and infrastructure, including roads and bridges, facilities, our fleet, and our technology. We are a service-based organization, so labor, salaries, and benefits are a chore every year. And then again, specifically what we highlight for this year are some of the frustrations we've had with the state and federal government in terms of their cost shifts. Specific to those cost shifts and looking into 2027, this is what we're looking at in addition to what's been deferred. Right now, on the books are $3.6 million in additional cost shifts from the state of Minnesota in human services, probation, in what they call the ACT, which is dealing with child protection, legal and aquatic invasive species. Just alone, that represents a 5.44% increase in the levy for 2027. That's our starting point because of what's coming down the pike. In addition, just recently, we were made aware of federal cost shifts from what they call HR 1. Right now, we're looking at $1.4 million in increase in the levy just to cover changes to SNAP. Now, this doesn't mean more people are eligible. This doesn't mean that anything has changed. It's just the federal government will no longer pay this portion. We will have to pay it. That's an additional 2.1% levy increase. So right there, you're talking about a 7.5% increase in 2027, just before we start talking about other increases. So you can see why we're very, very concerned about what's recently happened in St. Paul and in Washington. And then lastly, I note that the federal government has also already approved a shift of $300,000 in Medicaid, which will hit the books here in 2029. So looking at next year's budget, the proposed county budget next year is $139,667,354. The recommended levy is just shy of half of that. And you can see that's at $66,842,284. That does represent an increase of 6.49% over last year. Had the state cost shifts not occurred, that would be right around 5%. So that's the impact that those state decisions have had on us this year. Historically, this county has done a very good job of trying to keep their budgets in check. You can see here, we'll give you the last 13 years. The average increase has been just around 4%, but we've had years where it's been as low as 1.4%. This represents one of the highest years we've had in a long, long time. However, the good news is the tax rate has actually gone down. And that's because the tax base has grown faster than the levy increase. And so the effective tax rate, what that means is that if your home didn't go up in value, your taxes would actually have gone down. And then looking at tax capacity, that also reflects the fact that the county is a growing county and we have value in the county. When we adjusted this for inflation, which helps people talk in real dollars, it really comes down to this, that the county is taking effectively the same amount of levy in 2026 as it did in 2015. Now, what that tries to say is that we're trying to keep the per person taxes as flat as we possibly can when you adjust for inflation. That's one of our objectives that we've tried to stay very clear on. Looking at it a little differently, you can see here, the levy is in orange. If we adjust for inflation, the inflation-adjusted levy is in gray, and you can see it's held fairly flat. And then the trend lines show you the per capita levy. So while if you say, oh my gosh, it's $649 per person, When adjusted inflation again, you can see it's about that $429 per person in the blue line. A different way to look at it is to talk about, the tax rate. So here is the average 13-year tax rate, and you can see it's actually been reduced by about 2.74% every year. There's one blip in there, you'll notice, and that was when Sherco, the first unit, closed. We actually lost tax base for the first time in, I would say, over 25 years when the first unit closed. We are also facing the closure of the next 2 units over the next 5 years. So that is a significant impact on the county. Comparing to the other counties in our region, we have the 8th lowest preliminary levy per capita in the state. So there's the statewide rank. You notice Sherburne County at $649. That's not adjusted for inflation. Our neighbors, Stearns has a low one, Benton has a low one, but Chisago, Isanti, Wright are all much higher or much higher than us. And the state average is over $1,000 per person for next year, or a 7.85% increase versus our 6.49. So we remain in the lowest 10 counties in the state of Minnesota for per capita levy. Looking a little different, if we look at average levy per population increase, you can see the average levy increase there of 4.09 or 4.1, but our population growth is 14.3%. Compare that with, let's say, Isanti, 4.9% average for 14.3, Chisago 4.5 for less population growth, and even Wright County with a 20% population increase, a 6.4% increase.
Why isn't Anoka County?
Anoka County is part of the 7-county metropolitan area, so they have a whole different taxing structure, and it's hard to do comparisons.
Well, a lot lower, right?
Yeah.
Some of it is lower, some of it's higher. It depends if you look at their county tax versus what they pay at the regional level too, which is why it's hard to do that, because the Metropolitan Council has a huge tax that we don't have the Met Council, so we have to tax for some of those services. It's good. Cities are actually more comparable, but it really messes up the county because of that regional government. Yeah. They also get the benefit of additional revenue that we don't get, so they have a regional sales tax that they can use for things, and they actually get a kickback from that. So the counties, those 7 counties actually get 17% of the revenue from the regional sales tax to use on the roads and bridges that we don't get. So we don't want to be part of the metro, but there are a few benefits here and there, like they get this kind of non-taxing revenue that we don't get. Yeah, the great question though. What this means for the owner of a $400,000 home, what we're seeing for next year is an approximate $5.33 increase per month for the county portion of your tax bill. Again, don't know about school districts or cities, but that's what a $400,000 home impact would be, about $5.33 per month. So for the residential home example, with an average 2.5% increase in value, you can see the home went from $390,000 to $400,000. The county tax would go from $1,450 to about $1,515 or $1,513. Now, we know there are other taxes, and you see them. So this is just by comparison within Sherburne County. So you'll see the city of Baldwin's increase is 15.3%. Becker, Big Lake, Clear Lake, the east part of St. Cloud, Elk River, city of Princeton, city of Zimmerman. Then you have the school district increases. So you have Becker ISD, Big Lake, Elk River, Foley, Monticello, Princeton, and St. Cloud. So when you add those up, and you can usually take 3 of those on that sheet, that's going to give you an idea of why your taxes are going up. You can imagine if you live in East St. Cloud and you're in the St. Cloud School District, you have a 28.8% increase from the city, 7.3% from the school district, and 6.49% from the county. That's a big tax increase. A little bit on financing, because we'll shift to the budget now and talk about what we did to try to make this affordable. One of our challenges is where our money comes from. to run the government. So at the federal level, they get income tax. At the state level, they get income tax. They also get sales tax, and they also get a portion of your property tax. At the county and the local city and township and school district level, we are almost exclusively limited to property taxes. So we don't get income or sales tax. We are allowed to do a couple of other things to make up a little bit of that, so we can have what's called a local option sales tax for roads and bridges, but it's limited. And we can do what's called a wheelage tax of $20 per vehicle per year. Otherwise, we are limited in where we get our dollars, unlike the other state agencies. So where do we get our money? Property taxes, state aids, grants from the federal and state governments. We charge for some services. We do get that wheelage tax, and we get the local option sales tax. Who determines where we spend our money? Well, we have federal requirements, state laws. We have agreements for specific programs or requirements, might even be a grant agreement. The county board has very limited discretion in some areas, and sometimes designated agents will determine where those money is spent. But a lot of times we're constrained on the revenue and on the expenditure. So this is revenue. What it is in a simple chart is an explanation that about half of the revenue for the county comes from the levy. You can see the rest is made up a lot by intergovernmental transfers, that's state and federal funds. You can see a little bit for property tax penalties, license permits, miscellaneous revenues, investment earnings. So when we talk about our revenues, we are very much aware that we are dependent upon that levy dollar. You can see, again, it's just under 50% of the county's revenues. So where do we spend our money? If anybody asks what the county does, if you can just remember the three publics, that will explain to you what the county does. Public safety, that's the sheriff, law enforcement, the jail, community corrections, the attorney's office, everything we do to keep the community safe. Public health and human services, that's everything we do to protect children, vulnerable adults, temporary assistance for needy families, public health, all of that falls into that category. And public works, which is basically roads and bridges. On any given year, if you can think of those three publics, that basically describes 75 cents out of every dollar we spend. Public, public, public. Everything else that goes into that is to support those primary functions, and that's where we have to look when we talk about major changes. So, a little question then is, well, where does the levy dollar go? Because it doesn't go equally to every department. So on the left, you see the departments that are most dependent upon the levy, and the ones on the right are the ones that are least dependent on the levy. Not surprisingly, our planning and zoning department has zero. It's a revenue-funded department. So they take in fees for permits and fines, and they pay their own. The levy goes $0 to planning and zoning. You can see the county recorder, community corrections, the county parks, our public works departments, and even our health and human service, which is one of our biggest departments, don't take a lot of levy dollars by percentage. On the flip side, you'll see on the left those departments that are highly dependent upon the levy, including the library, veteran services, our extension programs, the attorney, the sheriff, the assessor, and the county auditor treasurer. That's where your levy dollars are going. Because we're a service-based organization, we do see personnel costs going up. The nice news is, on average, it's been going up by about 2% a year. But like any place else, we have to deal with cost of living adjustments. We have to deal with the requirements, healthcare, insurance, and retirement. New next year is a brand new state program called Minnesota Paid Leave. We are required by the law to pay at least 0.44% of an employee's salary into a brand new state program. That new program is almost run like unemployment insurance, but it's run for paid leave. That's a new law. That's something that we have no control over, yet we have to pay that. Well, you can imagine if you add up our salaries for a year and do 0.44%, that's not a small amount of money. New requirement. So when we talk about a personnel budget and we talk about next year, even though the county is growing, this is what the county board is doing next year. There are no staff increases. In fact, we are reducing staff by over 6 positions next year. That's just to try to keep the budget and the levy as low as possible. That's 6 fewer people. Now, what's interesting is if we did this by those levy-dependent departments, the largest departments, we would actually reduce 2 people in the sheriff's office, which we're not doing. We would reduce 1 person who does roads and bridges, which you'll see we're not doing. And we would reduce 1 person in the Health and Human Services Department, which we are doing. That's where those impacts should go, but because those are the highest priorities of the county board, you can see where those positions are actually being cut. So what that means is that there will be fewer people working for the county next year than there are this year, even though there are more residents, more businesses, and more mandates. That's what the board has said to try to keep the levy low. So if you pay a property tax dollar and Sherburne County collects it, Lorraine takes the dollar. First thing she does is she sends 60 cents of your dollar to those other districts, the state, the school districts, the cities, the townships, and taxing districts. Taxing districts include things like Lake Improvement District, or if you are in any area that has a special taxing authority, and new this year is as a taxing district to support the regional airport in St. Cloud. Now, it's very small, but it's there. It is a taxing district. So we take 40 cents of your tax dollar. What does it go for? Again, 14 cents of your tax dollar goes for corrections and law enforcement, 8 cents to Health and Human Services, 8 cents to general government, 6 cents to public works, and 4 cents to the attorney, courts, corrections. Which means if you add the one on the left with the one on the right, almost half of our levy dollars goes to public safety. Looking at it differently, and this is the hard part, if we see somebody who is in Coburn shopping and they say, I pay a lot of taxes, if they have a $400,000 home, our county commissioners and staff have to explain how come what are they getting for $126 a month? Because that's what they're giving the county on a $400,000 home. Guess what you're getting? $19 goes to public works, $25 goes to Health and Human Services, and $44 plus the attorney and courts, so $12.50. So basically, $57 of that $126 is going for public safety. And then the rest is $24.50. Now, we have to defend that because we're taxing it. We also have to pay it. But if we talk about it in those senses, those 3 publics, at least we hope you understand, even if you don't agree with it, where your money is going. In terms of transparency, all of this is available online at our budget finder. And I would encourage you to just, if you're interested, go online, take a look at it, and play around with it. Say, what if we eliminated all of the parks and had no county parks? What would that do? And you'll see the impact, or sadly, the lack of impact, because so much of this is set by all of those pieces that we don't control. If there's a good news in this, it's that the state does have a property tax refund system. You can find more information upon it. It isn't a panacea. The value, your property taxes will have to increase by more than 12% to qualify. And they have to be more than $100. If that happens, however, the state does have a program. I can be honest with you, one time my wife and I qualified. Our home value went up that much. So it's there for folks if that's what you're facing. The goal tonight is to share your thoughts on the information presented on the proposed budget and levy. Again, we've got staff here to assist. We would encourage you to also attend the school district, the township, the city meetings that you can. New this year, we would also ask that to the extent you're able to, help us address these cost shifts from the state and federal government. We're frustrated. We spend time in St. Paul and Washington saying this can't go on. We can't continue to raise the property taxes because people in DC and people in St. Paul can't balance their own budgets. But we need your help with that message because they hear from us enough. And they just say, well, that's the price of the government. But we don't have many choices, as you can see, and we've already made some tough ones. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it over to you, and we're available to answer any questions and to open the forum.
Yeah, we'll open the public hearing now. If anybody wants to address the board, feel free to just approach the podium, state your name and address, and we're here for you. You can go to the podium, sir.
Yeah, I'll help you up, sir.
Oh, up here?
Yeah.
I've never
Been here. Good place.
been here before. Welcome.
They can hear you pretty good, but it's on, okay?
Okay. Well, I got 10 acres out on 97th Street. And my 10 acres out there just went up 122.3%. And I'd like to know why that went up so high.
When you're done, sir, Michelle here, she's gonna wave.
Value, or are you talking about your taxes?
My taxes went up that much.
Yeah. So Michelle will take a look with you when you're done speaking to answer your specific parcel, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to know why they went up. Last year, they were only $618. And now this year, it's going to be $1,374. And how can you survive something that huge and that much?
You certainly could come back and talk to myself, or Dave's at my office now if you want to go see him about your value, if that's your concern, if the value went up.
Well, we should check and see if this
Yeah.
tax classification changed too.
And why should it go up that much in value, you know?
So, sir, how
That's-
about if
it's
you sit
crazy.
and talk with them
And then come back, yeah.
and then come back? Because the answers that you're seeking, the staff actually has. And then if you want more answers from us afterwards, definitely come back to the podium.
Yeah, if you're
Alright.
okay, they'll pull up your individual parcel for you.
Yeah, they can tell you what changed from a legal perspective. If you don't mind.
Follow me.
It's not a scary walk, you'll be okay.
Yeah, I was in there
Today.
All right.
Evening.
Good evening. I moved here about 4 years ago, and I purchased our house for it was for sale for $339,000. We paid $356 because of the market and what it's always been. But in that 4 years, my house is now, I'm being told, is worth $442,000 in 4 years. I never would have moved out here had I known that. I came from Anoka, Ramsey, city of Ramsey, and I never, with the tax increases and I realize that everybody can't afford what they could afford 5 years ago. But I'm just curious why the house value has gone up that much. I mean, it's not worth $442,000. It's maybe worth $400,000 at most. It needs tons of work. On top of that, we have a shared septic, and that's $200 a month just to flush my toilet and we can't get any help from the city or the county or the state because it's a residential issue. And I'm just wondering what we're going to do to stop these prices from increasing. I mean, I could never sell my house for $442,000. There's just no way that somebody would purchase my house in the condition that it's at. And I've talked to people last year, year before, and they said, well, we can come out and reassess your house, but we might actually decide that it's actually worth more than what we originally assessed it at, which keeps me from having somebody come out because, I don't know what you base your figures on. I've tried to look for houses that are comparable, but that's difficult to do. And I realize I live in Livonia, and they had their budget set last March. So I totally missed out on that. So I can't even talk to them. And so I'm just curious what we're going to do as a county to change that, because at this point, people are going to start losing their homes. And then we have a major problem because you're not going to get your tax money. I'm seeing tons of townhomes go up and double homes and apartments in Zimmerman alone, but it doesn't seem to be making much of a difference.
First of all, Brian, can you pull the slides down so Commissioner Hulse can be seen? Um, So this is actually one of the state frustrations that we expressed to you. State law determines how homes are valued. We've actually got, this county has a proposal in front of the state legislature to change the property tax system because of the very thing you're talking about.
Okay.
And Commissioner Hulse has been championing that, so he may or may not want to address it. But in addition, once you're done, Dan is a former assessor. So if you're willing to spend a couple minutes, he'll kind of explain to you generically why values are going up and about what they call comparable sales. And then if you have more follow-up, I would encourage you to actually sit down with the assessor staff. I don't think that's a reasonable threat that it's going to go up. I think you should feel comfortable understanding why your home value went up.
Right, I mean, I've got probably $90,000 worth of updates I have to do that we've been working on slowly since we purchased the house, but it's just, I can't keep up at that, and I work for the state of Minnesota, and so I also am not getting
My
an
apologies,
increase. So there's no increases this year,
Yeah.
and it's just a little frustrating, and I know that it's not anybody's single fault here, but it's just something it's something's got to change. I mean, this is getting ridiculous now. I mean, this is, 4 or 5 years of constant just up, 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 up. And I won't get into anything else about it, but I just wanted to.
And we definitely feel your pain because we all see the way the property tax system is set up and the way the state makes you do it. You have to compare with what the market is doing. And unfortunately, I think at times the market gets overly stimulated. And then we start to kind of, I'm going to use the term bubble.
Right.
And then I think we've been noticing that in the last few years. People are just paying outrageous prices to get into a home. And then that just kind of trickles down to everybody else because it raises the price of everybody's
Right.
value. So we hear what you're saying and we know it has to change. It's just getting the state to open that. And of course, Andrew can probably speak more to it too, because we're trying to push that conversation to get the state to open up this system and figure out a better way to do it than what is currently in place.
It is also a little crazy. I mean, I got a house next to mine that 5-acre lot, 3.5 of it swamp. So it's nice view out the back, but you don't have 5 acres of land you can use. Probably 6-7 years ago, the people who inherited it let it go, let it get run down. It was bought by a house flipper who basically painted all the cabinets, painted the stairs, everything white. It was bought by another couple in a family for the low 300s, not more than probably 4.5, 5 years ago, and just last year it sold for $475,000. The couple that bought it, and I thought, there's no way, that's $475,000 house. Well, in the initial sale, they immediately had to replace the entire septic, some of the roofing, and the roofing on the pole shed. And then the young couple that bought it have since then, parts of it that weren't part of that original deal, have stripped the inside of that house. Valuation on that house, and this is, like I say, this is next to mine, went for some $300,000 a few years ago, is going to be over $500,000. The house on the other side of mine, which was in better condition and a little bit bigger, but had an empty 5 acres, when they bought it, they paid over $500,000. So, and this is 6 years ago. So it's crazy, and definitely sit down with the staff and go over the particulars of your house, because the comparables get weird. It's like where your house is at and what somebody will pay for it. The house next to mine has had a bunch of improvements on the one side, has had a bunch of improvements put into it, a bigger pole shed, a couple of small sheds. I mean, and I don't know what their valuation is, but I look at it and I wish it wasn't worth that much, because I haven't done much with my house for about 25 years. I put a bunch of money into it between 29 and 25 years ago, but not a lot since. But I'm paying based on what my neighbors are doing right now. It's going to be great when I sell my house,
It's not ready yet.
but it's, it's not super good right this minute.
No,
I don't wake up in the morning and think, golly, I'm happy with this.
And you have to find a buyer. And if our income is stagnant and not increasing with the cost of inflation and whatnot, you're not gonna have any buyers coming out here to pay $700,000 to $800,000 for these homes. I mean, when you can go to Anoka County and get something comparable, maybe not as much land, but for half the price. And so it's just a little frustrating.
No,
Yeah,
and
I
we,
just-
we hear you.
We understand that.
Definitely hear
And
you.
you hit the nail on the head because, and I know Commissioner Hulse wants to jump on if you have a second, but, you know, the frustration with the Minnesota system is that property taxes have no correlation to income. So if you're a senior and you're on a limited income, or if you don't get your increase from the state or the county or whatever, and then you have to pay more property taxes, you feel it. Sales tax can also be very regressive because if cost of, groceries goes up, it doesn't tie to your income. So it is a very frustrating tax, which is why we showed who gets income tax, because we don't. But I will tell you, I would encourage you at least to consider, and Dan can talk to you more about this, talking to an assessor about your home, because in the case of my wife's and ours, it went up $40,000 one year, and we're like, we didn't do a thing to it. And it was all because the market had gone up. We actually invited the assessor into our home, which is a choice. They actually downgraded our bathroom from an A to a C because they had made some assumptions about the construction quality. And they're like, oh, well, now it probably lowered the value $5,000, but that's $5,000 less I didn't have to pay taxes on. So if you're willing, I would suggest that. With that, if you're okay, I'm going to ask Commissioner Hulse to jump in here because I want to respect his time there. So, sir?
Yeah, I just want to throw out a couple of things just for clarification. So just to reemphasize, the way the assessor's office works is dictated by state statute. And specifically, the valuation increases that individual home sees are driven by actual home sales that are determined to be comparable sales, but there's a lag, and I think it's about 18 months. And so what the increases that you're seeing now are actually the price, the values of sold homes that as they went up 18 months ago. And I think Dan can go into more detail with you, but there's two things actually three things I want to bring up. One is one of the reasons that I'm working with some of our legislators on modifying the property tax system is because it's punitive in this state on homestead. There's almost once your home gets above a certain level, there's no value to the homestead exemption, and it actually becomes more punitive because of, if you remember, you saw the increase, the two-tier property tax system in the state of Minnesota. So you price out on the homestead exemption, and then on top of that, you end up in the second tier of property tax calculations. So, but that's a state law change, and so that requires us to work with the state legislature to change that. But our property tax system is unfair to homesteaded homeowners, and so that's why we're trying to drive that. The second, and that's just for information, but I want to make you aware that we're actively trying to change the law as best we can. We're also trying to get the rest of the county associations to put similar pressure onto the legislature to make those changes. So I would highly recommend that you go ahead and talk to the assessor's office. As Administrator Messalt said, if there are specific challenges with the condition of the home, that can have an impact, and you should be able to take advantage of that. The second, but they can't do that if they don't have the opportunity to work with you on it. So just keep that in mind. The second piece is you mentioned something about a failing septic. I don't know your personal situation. I will say, while this wouldn't help with your property tax situation, we do have a new loan program in the county that's designed to help with exactly that sort of thing. I don't know under your situation if you'd qualify for it. Actually, Brian, who's administratively running the meeting today, is head of our EDA, our Economic Development Authority. That may or may not be something that you want to talk to him about, because maybe that there's an option there to help with your septic system.
Andrew, she has a shared septic system. She moved into a community that has a shared septic. So that would qualify under that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it, I
although
understand.
it'd be good to know a little bit more about it, because one of our state representatives is trying to get state law changed about community septic.
Yeah, we just had to pay $800,000 for a fix of the nitrates that are in
Yep.
my city well, or my home well. And,
Yeah.
have certain drinking,
Is
Yeah.
your septic system a nitrate issue also?
yeah, yeah.
So it's nitrates in the well and the septic?
Yeah.
So it isn't necessarily failing, it's that it's got a nitrate count that is now higher
Gotta
than
be
what state
treated
law
out.
allows?
Yeah, so the EPA had came out and
Yeah,
assessed
it's
us,
that
I think,
one.
60 both, and they had to pay, the people with the other septic did not have to pay that, or had to pay that as well. But theirs could likely have problems next year, and that would be another $100 a month.
Right.
And then I'll be paying $300 a month to flush my toilet.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
pretty common problem in the shared septics right now, is that the requirements have changed for the septic system, so, and that is, I think, if I'm correct on this, I believe that that is one of the things they're trying to address at state level.
Correct, yeah,
Because it's, frankly, it's nuts,
it's,
you know? I
Yeah,
mean, it's really hard to, it's really, it was fine until the rules changed.
It was fine till it wasn't fine.
Yep.
Yeah, my son was looking for a home some years back, and he was looking around the Blaine area. And there was a lot of those shared septics, communities going on out there. And at that time, I said, don't ever buy into a shared septic. That ties you to everybody else in that development. And what they do will impact that septic system, and it costs everybody. Or if you have someone that won't pay in. So I very much was adamant, you do not buy into a system. So hopefully at the state level, they'll start to fix those situations, because there seems to be more and more of those shared septic systems popping up. And they do come with you have to rely on someone who might move in from the metro that has never dealt with what you can and can't put down a septic
Right,
system,
right.
and inadvertently are going to mess that system up. And it's very costly to repair them.
I mean, we asked for if there was any kind of help we could get on any of the levels, and because it's residential, they're like, nope. It's
yeah,
like, oh,
you got away cheap. Our community septic system is failing. Our fix is $1 million, and that's on 38 homes.
Who owns your septic? Does the HOA still own it, or was it sold?
yeah, me? It's Whispering, no, Whispering Pines, but is that,
That's the one that's owned actually by NSU Utilities, I think. So it's a rare situation where the operator owns it. It's very unique in the state. Yeah.
Okay.
I will tell you, NSU Utilities is the best operator in the state, though, so it's still frustrating.
it's,
Yeah.
Hearing the word unique is not the word you ever like to hear.
Well, Dan's here if you do have a few minutes, so.
Before the next speaker gets up, can we, if you guys could make the wide picture of the dais, the big picture, I don't like the whole Wizard of Oz appearance of being the big, on the big screen.
Well, we
There you go.
Pay no attention to the
We
man
like
behind the
that.
curtain.
There you go. You're relegated to the corner now.
Is there anyone else here to speak?
I have a question. I mean, I'll go up, I guess.
Okay. We'll try.
The gentleman on the screen mentioned something about homestead and it maxes out. What is that threshold?
500,000.
So explain it to me, please. So if you have a value of over 500,000,
It jumps to 1.25, doesn't it?
right?
Yeah,
I
so
saw
the-
that on the
So
screen.
the homestead credit is if you live in the home that you own, you get a credit off of your tax value. but it gets less and less the higher the value of your home. And at about 500,000, it might be like 520. I don't think it's exactly 5. It goes to 0. So you get no more credit for that homestead. Then you get the double whammy, which is if it goes over 500,000 in value, you have a higher tax rate as well. So you lose a credit and you gain a higher rate.
On
Dan,
anything over the 500,000.
Yeah, Dan, do you remember, is the homestead credit max out at 5 or is it like 520? 514, yeah.
Changed that last year.
Yeah.
Which isn't enough when you have your average entry home is now going for, what was that, 375 or 400,000?
Yeah, 375 in Sherburne County.
Yeah, and so it doesn't take long to max out, obviously, and that needs to change as well. Those numbers just aren't keeping up. You don't pay it, you don't pay the 1.25 on anything under the 500,000, that's still the 1 point, but anything over the 500,000, you will pay that extra percentage.
So.
It's 517 this year.
517, thank you for that clarification. So then if we have an opportunity to homestead in a different state, is it in our interest to do that?
Well, you could run the scenario financially and see, because then you would have a non-homestead here, which maybe would be the same tax. That would be something we could try to calculate for you. And then you could look at the other state and see what the value is of their homestead, yeah.
That's what I'd like to know, because actually that state is trying to go for homestead at 0
Yeah, but we
state
could-
taxes.
Our assessor could take a look at your value. Would they be able to do the homesteaded, non-homesteaded rate?
And then you'd have to look at.
Yeah, so if you want to walk over there, Dan will help you get there. They
And then
could run the scenario about if you just said, what if it was non-homesteaded this year?
Correct, that's
The o-
what
the
I want
only-
to know, for sure.
The only thing I want to throw out, in most states, if you want to homestead in that state, you have to be a resident of that
Right,
state.
that's what I was gonna say. You have to analyze your entire residency
Yep.
requirements for that
Yep.
state.
Yep.
What you're gonna come up with. Like, none of us can do that right now, because if I bought a second property, say in Florida, which I would really like.
Well, I've got 2 that you can buy.
Okay, well, we'll talk. But,
No, it depends on where in Florida though, so.
yeah, it
A
depends
really
on where.
nice area.
Madeira Beach?
They're near beaches.
Okay.
Yeah, Madeira Beach though, or?
No.
Oh, shucks, okay.
So, but, I couldn't homestead it, right? Because I have to have residency to have this
Yep,
job,
I totally get
unless I
that.
want to quit.
Yep,
Hold on.
totally get that. So the second reason that we're here, and the real main reason that we're here, is that we have a home, and then we have a little bit of land in Sherburne County. And what we've experienced over the past 20 years is that our home value has not increased, it hasn't even doubled. However, our taxes have more than doubled. And then the land, that property has quadrupled.
1 acre.
Now, how is that possible with both of those scenarios? I don't know.
That's a great
That's the
question.
answer.
So you're saying the land has gone up in value, but the
Yeah,
homes-
1 acre, you are saying it's 133 cost. Nobody can sell it for that. We have people coming and they're saying they're gonna give us 19,000 because it's not developed.
Yeah. So if you want to run the homestead, non-homestead, the same staff over there can look at why.
$2,000 on 1 acre, over
Yeah.
$2,000.
And we can ask them specifically, why is the land valued the way it is? And they should be able to tell
We
you.
have a neighbor selling his 5 acres for 3 years for 140, never sold.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to run
Been here
comps.
20 years in Elk River.
Yeah.
And that's why people won't be coming here anymore. They're talking the taxes are outrageous,
Yeah.
more than Hennepin County.
Well, in particular, our development
Yeah.
seems to be the highest
Depends where it sits in
in
Elk River.
Sherburne County, which how is that decided?
Yeah. And again, with the state law, the general answer is it's market-driven. So it's the highest because people value it and they're willing to pay the highest. So we try to look at comparable sales. Now, with your land, I think that's a good question. We should see what the comparables are on how the assessor is setting the value. If they made a mistake,
It's very difficult, I think, to get a comparable on that.
Yeah,
At least for me it is, and they may have different resources.
yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a great question, and I hope you'll let us try to answer it.
Absolutely, that's why we're here.
Okay, well then, again, I'll ask Dan, he'll walk you over. We have 2 people in the office here specifically to do just that, so.
Fantastic, thank you.
We're trying.
Thank you, guys.
Is there anyone else here?
Let's talk.
No, okay.
Both of them said exactly what we would say. I mean, it's the same thing. So I got a card and I'll talk. And
Yeah.
the one question I do have, just really quick.
Could you step up to the podium so that it can be recorded, please? Thank you.
We'd rather have you on.
I know it's a little
We're-
intimidating, but
Yeah, we won't like broadcast it or anything, so.
The one question I do have is, are we able to go to the state, like ourselves? Like, can I take our property tax in and just ask them, and just be like, what would you like us to do about this? Are
Well-
we able to?
Directly to their state rep.
I'll give you a card, and
Okay.
if you would either contact me and then I'll respond to you. I will give you the names of the state representatives who represent us.
Okay,
And if you'd be willing to just drop them a note and say, hey, my property taxes are going through the roof, and
yep,
and here's what we're experiencing. Those are the decision makers. Unfortunately, if you go to the State Department of Revenue, they're going to go,
right,
we're a big bureaucracy, we do what we're told.
yeah,
That's what we don't want our staff to do to you. So we're trying to say, hey, this is what we're doing. But it's the same thing. You got to talk to the decision makers at the state who make the laws. So I'll definitely get you in contact with them.
yeah.
and on the upside, everybody's running next year from the state legislature, and a lot of us too. So we're going to be coming to your door
Okay,
to answer some more of these questions next year, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities to see. I mean, you can get a hold of your state representatives, you can get a hold of any of us, absolutely, and we'll try to answer the questions as best as we can, or we'll hand them down. But in terms of contacting everybody, next year's a big campaign year. This is a year, and this is a good time to get out and raise your issues with people, because this is when we'll be trying to put together the formula for who's going to run, who's going to have the office, and what we want the future of the state to be.
okay.
I know if that sounds a little over the top. It's just, it's
And-
actually how I think.
And
So-
also, please ask them to quit balancing the budget on the shifting to the counties, which means you're going directly to the property taxpayers. Remind them that constantly. What you do down there affects our property taxes.
Can I ask?
I want you to stop.
Let me just throw something out real quick. And I just want to be clear. If you have specific questions about your specific parcel, those are questions that our staff can answer here. And I would encourage you to, Dan, as with the others, can walk you down and they can look at your specific parcels. The state's not going to know anything about that.
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, just the more
But-
general
but-
question.
But if you're talking about putting, letting your legislature know, we need to fix the homestead exemption. We need property tax relief for our homeowners who are trying to stay in their homes. Those are the kinds of things that you can raise with your legislator. And because those overarching laws are what they have control over. But when you're talking about your specific parcel, those questions are best answered by our staff.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep,
Yeah,
that does.
he put it very well. It's a two-pronged approach. We can answer what's going on locally, but as he said, I mean, there's things the state could be looking at, and that's where it's going to be handy next year.
And as
we know
Bruce
next
said
year.
in the beginning of the presentation, basically, we push and we push for these changes,
Yeah.
but they need to start hearing it too from the people that are most affected by those changes. So
Right.
any help that can come from residents and property taxpayers is very helpful.
May I ask where your home is?
Livonia Township.
Okay, so Representative Lawrence is the state representative, and then the senator there would be Senator Eric Lucero.
Okay,
Very, very approachable folks. We'll make sure you get in contact with them,
okay.
And if you want even some talking points, as Commissioner Hall said, it's not, you know, my house has got a crack, it should be less, that's what we deal with. It's, this system is broken and we're starting to feel it, yeah.
Right, and I have talked to several people, like I've called a couple of times and
Yep.
spoke with the women, and then I've actually spoke with Russ at least once. And then, so like all of our questions have been answered as, you know, we understand, you know, that there's things that need to be paid, and yes, you know, there's increases of taxes, you know, like we totally get that. But I don't want to just sit back and be like, okay, well, you know, because we've lived in the same property for 31 years. It's taken us 31 years to make anything of it. And then all of a sudden we get our taxes went up 34.5%. So it was like $4,686 to $6,302. And it's like, we're just people with average jobs, you know? And so, yeah, so it isn't so much, I mean, everybody in the county has done an incredible job answering the questions I've asked, but I just want to take it, like what you're saying, I don't want to just sit back and do nothing and just.
Yeah.
And we appreciate anything that you can do to help push that needle. Also, it sounds like you can probably take advantage of what's on the reverse side of that as to how to apply for homestead credit and all those other things that will hopefully help reduce that bigger number, so,
Is there
yeah.
a rebate for a percentage?
Yeah, if your increase went over 12%, so more than $100, yeah.
Okay, perfect, and I think that's what, when I spoke with Russ, I believe he had.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I mean, even that's not a panacea, it still doesn't fix the core problems, but at least it's some sort of break.
Something.
Yeah, at least it's something, but yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely want to, like I said, I don't want to just sit back and do nothing and just be like, well.
Thank you for not wanting to do that. We appreciate that.
And your house is in my commission, is in my district, so
Okay.
I would be
Well,
your commissioner per se, so.
Oh, okay.
And let me throw something else out there too. You know, it is our job as the county board to manage our budgets to the greatest extent we can, extent we can. And the other piece of that, though, and I think this is important, we have seen over the last couple of years unprecedented changes at the legislature that are literally forcing counties to raise taxes. And something's got to give. And I think we're at the point where, you know, the counties, we've had several meetings with the various counties. There's 87 counties in the state, and we've had meetings with representatives from all of them. And one of the top priorities is sending the message back to the legislature. This can't continue. And but I also think that this is the right time for the general public to also raise those issues. We're one of 10 states in the country that have county administered HHS programs, for example. And HHS is, as Bruce mentioned, is I think the largest department in the county. We're one of 3 states in the US where the counties are required by the state to pay for HHS, for the administration of it. And what's happened is, and I know our legislatures quite well, what has happened is that a number of bills are being passed at the state level, but they don't want to have what's called a fiscal note tied to them, which means if the legislation requires money to pay for what they're wanting to do, it requires a fiscal note, meaning it has to have a cost analysis done. If, however, they pass the law and don't attach any money to it and just say, oh, the counties have to go raise the money for it, they don't have to have a fiscal note. And so that's what's been happening at the legislature, and that's why it's driving all of these costs at the county level, as we've seen not just 2026, but even more in 2027 and beyond. So that's why it's important that not just the counties express their concerns to our local legislators, that the general public does as well. And the general public in general doesn't understand how all that works. So that's why I took the time to explain.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't bore you.
No,
Yeah.
no, thank you for explaining that.
And just in case, HHS, Health and Human Services, which I'm sure you knew that,
Yeah.
but we deal acronyms and you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in Sherburne's unique in the sense that in almost every other county, the Health and Human Services Department is the largest. We're unique in that the sheriff's office is actually the largest here, but Health and Human Services is second largest, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Well, perfect. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for coming out on this
I'd
super
ask
cold night.
again, but unless the deputy or Lorraine wants to talk, I don't think anybody's willing to jump in.
What about me?
Well, yeah. Now we start complaining about our own taxes.
Andrew, you've been talking a lot. So the next thing on the agenda is commissioner comments. Any of you have any? Are you all good?
I just wanted to thank everybody that did come out tonight to ask the questions, want to know where the dollars are going. I appreciate that when anybody comes out to want to understand that and then comes out to ask those questions, so.
Right. Yeah, I would say, yeah, it's fantastic when people do come to talk to us because then, I mean, it's a great chance to find out if there's things we can fix and if there's things that should be looked at again. Or just at least in like in the case of, I didn't know that that particular development also had a nitrate septic problem. So that I can just add that to my list of septic issues in the county. Yes, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
and the only thing I'll throw out there is I just encourage everyone, if you have a specific question about a specific issue on your specific parcel, don't leave tonight without getting that answered by staff. That's why we have them here tonight. So at least make sure you have an understanding of where it's at. And like I said, in some cases, it may end up being, you know, a reassessment of that particular property. But I encourage everyone, don't leave tonight without getting your question answered.
And Andrew, I know you can't see the room, but everybody did. They were personally walked down by Dan to the assessor's office, and they are having those conversations, so.
So I'm talking to an empty room.
Pretty much so,
Well,
yeah.
kinda. But we're listening.
We're enjoying
Heard
it.
ya.
there could be
I like
online
to hear
viewers, so
myself
that's good.
talk.
We
Anyway,
could
it's
turn the
fine.
camera on so you could see though. I mean, come on, Brian.
He is at a disadvantage because he can't see the room.
No, we gotta show it through the input camera.
Well, unless anybody's got anything else, we're adjourned.
Take care,
All right,
Andrew.
good night, guys.
All
Have
right.
a great night.
All right, Andrew, I'll switch the camera.